has the entire Ten Commandments inscribed on it in ancient block Hebrew letters. You'll notice there's a person carved here in the middle. He looks like he's wearing a robe and a turban on his head and holding a tablet. The letters above his head say Moshe, which means Moses. As you can see, the inscription of the Ten Commandments is all over the front, sides, and back of the stone. After the stone was discovered, when word got out about it, many people automatically dismissed it as fake because they didn't think it was possible for an ancient Hebrew artifact to be found in a North American burial mound that was a couple thousand years old. And they weren't aware that block Hebrew was a genuine written form of ancient Hebrew. They thought it was made up. Now, if you notice behind the Decalogue stone, you have the case and the lid, which the stone was found in. And as I mentioned before, David Wyrick had witnesses with him. They dug up thousands of wagon loads of dirt and stone, and at the very bottom and center of the burial mound, they found a wood coffin. When they opened it up, there was a skeleton inside that soon crumbled to dust, as ancient skeletons often do when they're exposed to air. There was a stone found with the skeleton, and when they picked it up, they could hear rattling inside of it when they shook it. And it turns out the stone was a stone case. It has the entire Ten Commandments inscribed on it.
Shalom. All praise goes to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors goes into the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that have taught me the truth. And much love, peace, and blessings goes out to all the elect brothers that are teaching the word of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, in truth and in sincerity. So I'm going to do this lesson regarding this, this ancient stone, which I know brothers have been hearing about this for several years. This isn't new, but of course you got newcomers to the faith that need to get edified on this information. So that's why I want to take the time to go into this. And basically this was a stone, an artifact that was found in North America in the United States. I believe it might have been at the late 1800s this stone was found. But basically what you had was a stone which was inscribed with ancient Hebrew. Right? When you think of ancient Hebrew or Hebrew, the Hebrew language in general, what people comes to mind? The Hebrew people, the Hebrew Israelites. Okay? So for one, this stone was inscribed with Hebrew. So you may have naysayers will say, well, you had different ancient peoples that wrote with Hebrew as well. Well, guess what? There wasn't just any Hebrew words inscripted on this stone. There was the Ten Commandments as well as the name of Mashah on this stone. The name of Moses, the leader of the nation of Israel, which led us out of the Egyptian captivity. Right? And nonetheless, it was found over here in North America as a part of the Native American traditions. And why is that? Because the Native Americans of North, Central, and South America and the Caribbean islands are Israelites. They are the 10 tribes that Shalmaneser led away captive, and they left their captivity and came to this side of the world. Okay, so as you can see in this map I got here, basically the Northern Kingdom was dwelling, as you can see, that small country Israel, which is to the left of Egypt. We dwelt there at that time, but the Northern Kingdom, due to them being wicked, following other gods, they got led in captivity. So they were put all the way east into what's modern day Iraq, but then they escaped that captivity, traveled through they basically traveled from the point of the body of water south of Iran, south all the way to the southernmost point of Africa, around across the Atlantic Ocean, and over here into the United States. And that's when this land began to be inhabited. And it was first inhabited and dwelt in among our people, man, the Israelites. So yes, indeed, the people they call Native American savages and all of this, Mexicans, they are Israelites. You know, Brazilians, Nicaraguans, they're all Israelites. The natives of those lands, all Israelites. Because I'm going to get this scripture. This is Deuteronomy 30:1. It says, "And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse." And this is the time period which we're living under the curse. Because the blessing was upon us for a short amount of time while King Solomon was ruling, right? It says, "Which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord hath driven thee." So that's what's happening right now. The Israelites, blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans are calling to mind of our identity. It says, "And shall return unto Yahweh thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul. And then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the utter outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahweh thy God gather thee, and from thence he will fetch thee." You see? So this is what the Lord is doing. That's why he's showing these artifacts. He's making it manifest and proof the identity of his people are, so that, hey, so we can wake up and get up out of here. Okay? Let's go to some information on this Assyrian captivity, because that's what, this was the preceding event that led to the Northern Kingdom coming to this side of the world. So it says, "The Assyrian captivity is the period in the history of ancient Israel and Judah during which several thousand Israelites from the kingdom of Israel were forcibly relocated by the Neo-Assyrian Empire. This is one of the many instances of the resettlement policy of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. The kingdom of Israel was conquered by the Neo-Assyrian monarchs Tiglath-Pileser III and Shalmaneser V. The later Assyrian ruler Sargon II and his son and successor Sennacherib were responsible for finishing the 20-year demise of Israel's northern 10-tribe kingdom, although they did not overtake the kingdom of Judah. Jerusalem was besieged but not taken. The tribes forcibly resettled by Assyria later became known as the 10 lost tribes, you see? So let's go into the biblical account. It says, "The captivities began in approximately 740 BCE, meaning 740 years before the Messiah, Yahushua, was born." It says, and this is quoting the scriptures, it says, "And the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Tilgath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away captive. And he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh." And why does it mention those three tribes specifically? Because those were the warrior tribes, hard to conquer, but yet and still, because the northern kingdom was being wicked, the Lord allowed that to happen. Okay? Look at this. Because of this. Deuteronomy 8:19 says, "And it shall be if thou do at all forget Yahweh thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that ye shall surely perish. As the nations which the Yahweh destroyeth before your face, so shall ye perish, because ye would not be obedient unto the voice of Yahweh your God." You see? So that's what happened. Eventually, our people were misled into committing those sins, right? And even tells you from the point of the first king of that northern kingdom, the split, which would have been Jeroboam. That's when the northern kingdom started going off, because Jeroboam erected idols, you know. This is 1 Kings 12 and 26. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. And this would have been after the controversy between Solomon and Jeroboam, because Solomon took Jeroboam's life. But then Jeroboam was placed back into the northern kingdom. It says, if this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah. And they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. So for his own vanity, to procure his crown, this is what Jeroboam had the people do. It says, whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, meaning idols, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. See? And they started worshiping these gods and, did what they did. It says, and he set up the one in Bethel and the other put he in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. And he made a house of high places, and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. So this guy was going completely off. And that's why you hear that common, quotes throughout the reigns of the northern kingdom, that they walked in the sins of Jeroboam, meaning they were still following this form of idolatry, worshiping those golden calves in these different, in these 2 different cities, man. And had made priests of themselves when the priests were supposed to be the Levites, So they were completely off. And that's why eventually down the line, the Lord raised up these Assyrians to take them out. It says, so let's read the second account. It says, in the days of Bekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and he took Ijon and Abel, Beth Maachah, and Janoah, and Kadesh, and Hazor, and Gilead, and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. So basically, that's what began to happen. The northern kingdom went into captivity. So, and from that point of them going into captivity, the Apocrypha actually details what happened next. Okay. 2 Ezra 13 and 40. Let's read from verse 39. So the 2 Ezra 14, was it? 13 and 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which are carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Oseh the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, so they came into another land. The waters represented the rivers of the Tigris and Euphrates. They crossed over and went into the Assyrian kingdom. It says, but they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. You see, so basically they went through the Euphrates River into the wider body of water, which would have been, I believe the Persian Gulf, and then from that Persian Gulf into the ocean, where they sailed west and kept sailing west until they hit the Americas, of course, sailing around what's known as Africa as well. It says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years, and the same region is called Arsareth. So 1.5 years travels, that's a long distance. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. You see? So meaning that they were there from then until this time now, when Yahweh Shem Yahushai is raising up the tribes for us to get up out of here. And that's why, going back to this video, this type of information is coming out. You know what I'm saying? Indian artifact with block Hebrew. And this thing is called the Newark Holy Stones. Newark Holy Stones refer to a set of artifacts allegedly discovered by David Warwick in 1860 within a cluster of ancient Indian burial mounds near Newark, Ohio. You see? It says it's believed to be a hoax, but this ain't no goddamn hoax, man. These were known from the Hopewell civilizations, right? But these were civilizations that were around several hundred years before the so-called white man got here. And that's why you see remnants of their Hebrew culture, because when the tribes first got here, as it says in the scripture, they came here to keep the commandments. So they were speaking Hebrew and exercising the laws, and that's why you see things like this. But over time, they fell away from that. And that's why the Lord sent the so-called white man over here to this side of the earth in, North, Central, and South America to basically kill them, punish them. Because they fell away once again. But yet, and still, this is one of many examples that prove our identity. We are who we say we are, man. Israelites. All praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Shalom.